it's a debate, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hello, good evening, everyone. So good to see you all here. And here we are with Professor Mike Knowles, who's here to take a session on creativity for us. And I've known Mike for, it seems like ages. And he is somebody who amazes me every time I talk to him about creativity, about innovation, and it's such a pleasure just talking to him. So today we are fortunate to have him with us, and he will speak to us about how creativity can actually change our lives over. You all know who Mike is, pretty famous in the Indian design circles, and I will give you a little intro. I think he came into India, Mike, for the In Studio, right? You set up the In Studio in India, and associated with a lot of designers all over the world, and has set up the Ansel School of Design, and now is with Rishihood. So, Mike, the stage is yours, and we are very, very eagerly listening to what you have to tell us.
Charming as usual, Dipti. Thank you very much indeed. I think one of the things that when Dipti says that she's always amazed when she sees me is that at my age I'm still alive. But no, I'm still terribly enthusiastic, like a child when it comes to creativity. The very exciting thing as well is that, and we'll come on to this as we go through, is that at last people are listening. You know, I've gone on about creative education, design education, or let's not say design thinking, let's say critical thinking. I've banged on about this subject for well over a decade, far over. And often I've hit deaf ears, but things are changing quite dramatically. And that's possibly one of the silver linings to the cloud that we've all been putting up with over the past 14, 15 months. And we have to look for those silver linings, because if we don't, it's pretty, no, we need to be positive. I've never done one of these. I've done lots and lots of stuff online, but I've never done this. It seems very, very sophisticated and posh to me. So I shall try to be sophisticated and posh. I don't know how, but I will do it. But I really want to have a chat with any of you, all of you, that are looking at this presentation. We're in times where things are changing dramatically. I mean, really changing dramatically. If we were ever going to sort out the problems that we have created for ourselves over the millenniums, the past thousands of years, and certainly when it comes to things like education and other things that we started to get massively wrong at the time of the first industrial revolution in sort of the 1850s, now's the time. Now is the time for change. And I'm not being an old hippie and saying, hey guys, this is wonderful, and let's let's all have a great party and the age of Aquarius and things like this. I'm talking very seriously. I'm talking about those terrible things that we have done to this planet, and the terrible things that we've done to the people on this planet. And when you look at the fact that the whole thing with the education system in the the time of the Industrial Revolution was designed by the powerful nations at the time, who wanted to educate people to become soldiers so that they could take over, we could take over the world, or to become miners and work in factories so that we could have coal to produce energy and electricity, etc., etc. The individual wasn't important. It was what the system wanted from that individual. So our mindsets, or the way that we were presented with education, or what was given to us in the way of education, wasn't really what we should have had. But because we have seen a very frightening we've gone through a very frightening scenario, and it's not over yet, but it's making people change. And we really can make those big changes. So some of the things that we're going to talk about today, and as I say, please, this is a conversation. I mean, this is virtually extemporaneous. I've got a few notes here, but I need your thoughts. Because if I'm going to talk about, and I am working very hard, I've just been sent a video of a program that I'm working on aimed at young people on creativity. It's an animation, and it's going to go live in about 3 months' time, and whatever. So youngsters from the age of 8 can start seriously getting involved in redeveloping their creativity and things like that. But if I'm looking at working on setting up what's going to be called the Creativity Commission, getting creatives all over the world to come together and say, hang on, creativity is the most valuable thing that you've possibly got. Creativity is more valuable than your PhDs, your degrees, your masters and whatever else. Those things are wonderful. But before that, your human creativity is massively important. I'd like to sort of open up a discussion, something I've been working on very recently, in terms of the fact, could you imagine that if the next cryptocurrency, the next NFTs, was based on human creativity? Sounds a bit far-fetched? Tell me. I don't think it is. When you consider the wealth of nations has been based, when we found it as a stage in our history that we had to say, well, this nation is worth X. How do we judge it? This individual is worth X. How do we quantify it? So we started off by looking at a metal that we dug out of the ground that was very pretty and sparkly, very ductile. You could do all sorts of wonderful things with it. It was called gold. And so we set up the gold standard. So we based human wealth on a rock or a lump of metal that came out of the ground. Interesting. Then we went on to other ideas, didn't we? We based the standard, not the gold standard, but then we based the dollar standard. So something that from an idea from the Medicis, things like that, banking. And so you've got lots of these little notes, and that makes you rich as a nation, makes you rich as an individual. What does it actually give you as a human being? What have we based our wealth upon? Think of this. What about if your creativity, if every young person's creativity was actually their wealth? It was the cryptocurrency. It's what we based wealth upon. Think about it. It's not a lump of metal. It's not a piece of paper. It's a human being. And it's the special gifts that human beings have. And if you think about it in fact, people that end up with lots of the gold stuff and lots of the floaty notes, what gets them there? What makes them succeed? What makes them rich? Where do they get the ideas from? From the creativity. From the creativity that either is a developed, that's over millions of years of evolution, or whether with some other people that who still believe in God, that it's that creativity is a God-given, God-given gift. We mustn't reject any of those things. Every single child is born with the wealth of creativity. And if that was the case, why shouldn't we base the whole of our systems on that? Oh, it sounds very touchy-feely. It sounds very soft. It sounds all this kind of thing. Oh, it's so lovey, lovey, lovey. Perhaps the world would change dramatically if that was the case. Tell me what you think. So I'd like this to be a bit of a debate. We were talking about the fact that the secret, the creativity is the secret of your success, yeah, which is super. And I believe in that a millionfold, and I've seen it happen and worked on it in life and seen the results. You as educationists or whatever else, if, as is par for course or has been, your goal, and you are all concerned educationalists, so you want your students to succeed. If initially you see their success as being a BA, an MA, a PhD, that's one way of looking at it. If you see their success as being highly creative, skillful people, then you can give them their PhDs, then you can give them their O-levels, A-levels, their whatever they've got. But that's what they've got. Why can't we do it? I'm going to read this premise, and this is what I want to debate with you. And as I say, I am really, really keen on your feedback. And your feedback, I would be delighted if it's positive, and I'd be delighted if it's negative, because we want a discussion. I want to hear you. I have to take these off. I've got my wrong glasses with me. The creativity premise. We find ourselves at a very important juncture on the roadmap forward that will hopefully lead us out of last year's trauma. Powerful things are in process. The juggernaut of high-tech, AI, robotics has shown its place in bettering our lives. At the same time, we're experiencing the uncertainty of changing world demographics. Without fail, the pandemic has weakened the economy of every nation on earth. It has laid bare societies which are exhausted mentally and physically, desperate not to have to experience this again. We're in need of a dynamic job creation programs. We seek paradigms that would leave behind the archaic mess of the past. No one can deny the ability AI has to hasten solutions to near impossible problems. That's been proven. When mentoring students who are anxious about robots taking over, I refer them to the genie found in Aladdin's lamp, the power source that obeys his master's voice, his master's wishes. Robots are wonderful, powerful, useful, but they are not creative. And there's a couple of references here you may want to take down. Mikhail Kaku, brilliant string scientist. The jobs of the future are what robots cannot do. They are born from the extension of human imagination and vision and are crafted by human skill and genius. The human masters that rule them will call the tune and the robots will dance to it. What a merry jig that would be. A high-flying, fast-moving flurry of the impossible. All steps being beyond human ability. But will it be a beautiful dance? Will it be an ugly dance? Human creativity will dictate the moods. Now herein lies the rub. Our education systems over the last 2 centuries systematically destroys our creativity from the moment we are blindly led into its clutches. For that reference, just a little YouTube, Dr. George Land on the NASA research on creativity. Fascinating. It's not an encouraging realization. Youngsters are becoming less and less creative. New ideas, blue sky thinking is being dumbed down. Now is the time to take action. And there is a snip from Jack May again on YouTube when he was talking about the future at Davos, I think 3 years ago. And he said, if we want to actually get things right, we have to change our education systems and we have to make them based much more around creativity. The Creativity Commission recognises the urgent need and have come together to emphasise the fact that human creativity is the elixir of life. Collectively, we recognize the need for something to be done, and done urgently. The current worldwide economic situation will not encourage governments to invest in creative education. It is a classic. STEM subjects become prominent at a time of crisis. The A of STEAM is sadly left behind. A tragic mistake. The changes we face demand creative thinking. It's not pure conjecture. So many of the great education thinkers, the likes of the much missed visionary Ken Robinson, have made the point over and over again. Still, such wisdom falls on deaf ears. A simple but true fact: the more creative the youngster, the better they create their own successful lives, create successful companies, create successful jobs, create opportunities for others, create solution for the world. Okay, so that's the premise. That's what I firmly believe in. That's where I think we need to go. Let's have a chat about it. We could start, for instance, by saying that robots are not creative. Done and dusted. That's an absolute deal. That's it. The people that will, if you think of think of Maslow's triangle, the hierarchy of needs. Think of a new hierarchy of needs. Yeah, let's just do it here on my pad. We have the triangle. We have in the middle of the triangle AI. That's the way the world's going. AI is going to be the strength. It's going to take us forward. Yeah? Below AI will be, I don't want to say subclass, it's not nice, but people who are not creative enough to make AI work. But the people who are creative and who can call the tune will be the top 20% of people on this planet. And those are the people that we want our students to be. So there's the premise. But this report that was commissioned by NASA on creativity by Dr. George Land. Why did they choose creativity? Why didn't they spend the millions of dollars that they did on the report on a new material to make aeroplanes out of, or a new fuel? They did creativity because creativity is the rocket fuel of NASA. Yeah, great. NASA's great with all its engineers and its mathematicians and its scientists. Wonderful. But they need people with ideas. They need people that say they don't live by standard formula. They create new formula. But what the report showed was that they took 1,500 people. These people happened to have been 5 years of age. And they gave them various tests to see the level of their creativity. So the outcome was they found that youngsters at the age of 5 actually had a creative ability, 98%. You know that classic thing, why mum, why dad, what's this, why? Constantly searching, constantly looking for ideas, constantly looking for, yeah, this might be this, but why can't it be that? That's what we're born with. But then we put us, children, whatever, into a system, man-made system, that what's been happening to systematically removes that creativity. And so what the report showed from NASA was that by the time that a youngster is the age of 12, that 98% of creativity has come down to 30%. 30%. 60%, 60+% of the creativity taken out by a system. Many people refer to that as child abuse, and I would as well. And it gets worse. They go on from the age of 12, By the time they get to the age of 16, really looking at where they should be doing, their futures, their careers, etc., etc. Between the years of 16 and 18, the creativity has come down to 12%. So you're looking at a bright future, but all the energy and ideas inside you that can build that future for you is gone, or the vast majority of it. And the average adult, this research showed the average adult has 2% creativity. We've managed on that 2% creativity. 2% of the people coming up with some really great ideas and moving things forward. But then, of course, there's been dramatic changes now because we've got AI. And anything that is remotely rote, anything that has been discovered by others and written down, will be handled by AI. So accountants, lawyers, surgeons, you name it. If it's an established fact, AI will handle it, and handle it more efficiently than us, handle it faster than us, handle it cheaper than us. So what does that leave? It leaves AI hungry for new ideas to put into its data, its vast data banks. And those new ideas will come from creative people. So let me ask you, what do you think about this? Is it far-fetched to believe that our future wealth, our future stability, our future growth is based on a strong human ability to create? Or would you still rather see the gold standard there? I would sincerely value some comments from the audience. Communication? A recent report from the Harvard Business Standard, Harvard Business Review, I use that a lot when I'm writing up new projects, talked about the skills, the new skills of the future. The first one of those being communication. So can we have some communication? What do you think about this idea that youngsters' future is built far more importantly than on their degrees, etc., but then on their creativity? My assumption is that because there's no replies, either the idea is too far-fetched for you, or you don't agree. But if you don't agree, please tell me.
Hi, sir. So there are many people who are agreeing with what you're saying. So there is Miss Pooja who is saying that creativity is the new intelligence marker.
Yeah. That's a lovely comment. Beautiful. This is what I love about these things. That's why I want to talk to people. I don't want to listen to me. I'm tired of listening to me. I think, give me that expression again, please, Puchika.
Creativity is the new intelligence marker.
What a lovely thing. Who's sent that?
Miss Pooja Nangia.
Pooja, I'm going to steal your words. I hope you don't mind. Pure plagiarism. When you get to my age, and perhaps a professor for 150 years, it's nice to have other people's. That is superb. Actually, creativity thing is the new intelligence marker. Thank you. Let's have some more. Come on.
So we have some questions also, sir. So Miss Isha wants to know, does communication and creativity come together?
It does, doesn't it? I mean, for instance, yeah, absolutely. You communicate when you've got something to say. Like just now, when everything was blank, and I was sitting here and saying, "Oh well, that was 20 minutes." So it's like at a game of cricket. It's like I've just come in and I've just been bowled for a duck. So I said something, and but no. So what you do is that you then communicate. So you use your creativity to ask questions. One of the big things, one of the main things when I'm working with youngsters on developing their creativity, and that's what we do. That's why, as all of you people out there who I'm sure are wonderful educationists, I never use we're not teachers. We are not teachers. Certainly in the creative industries, we are mentors, because we're looking at the existing qualities, abilities of young people come from themselves. Not we've not put them in it. It put stuff into them. They have stuff, and then we get into them and we help them develop. And we help them develop their creativity. So that's, and then one of the key things I work with youngsters is the subject of empathy. And I've just come off a webinar before this, where a team of scholars that I'm working with, and talking about the power of empathy, because the power of empathy makes you listen. We talk about design thinking. There are 3 elements to design thinking or creative thinking. One is it starts with an empathetic understanding of a problem. So this comes to your creativity, and this comes to communication. That when somebody's telling you something or asking you something, you listen. You listen to every single piece. You look at their eyes. You see their expression. And once you fully know, or nearly fully know about it, then you can use your creativity. So you're communicating and you're creating answers for that. So go back to a very short answer to whatever. Yeah, creativity and communication are essential. Tina, sorry, how can we encourage students to be more creative? Because most of these kids these days have become dependent on technologies, etc. Good question. Yeah, it's a problem, isn't it? Gosh, I think the thing is to actually point out to them. It comes down to that need again. Let's be honest. Everybody wants to be successful, or the majority of people want to be successful, and we have to bring mammon. We have to bring that into the sphere that people want to make money. We have to make them realise that if they must not be dependent on technologies. The technologies need to be dependent on them. And it's when you reverse that round, that's when it works. You got an idea? Yeah, there's a pen. All right, terrific. Big, whatever it is, been around for a long, long time. Why be happy with this? Why be happy with a pen that writes like that? Why can't I have a finger that writes on a wall? We can do that now on a tablet. Why? And once you get them and say, no, but it's a crazy idea. You'll never why won't we make it happen? Challenge it, go for it. Because what you have got, I said in that little piece that I wrote, what youngsters have at the moment in their hands, and massively so. You watch the changes that's going to happen by the end of this year, in terms of the fact of communication, the speed of communication, the speed of AI, etc. These youngsters have Aladdin's lamp. So I'm in the UK at the moment, so let me go back to my Indian roots. Aladdin's lamp. And you turn around and say, right, I want this. I want magic. I have an idea. Find me a way of making it work. Look at everything that's been going on, and then let's look at solutions and whatever. You know, technology will give you information. What you do with that information is the creative part, to take it forward. Any more questions? Comments? I would love it if somebody disagreed with me. Terrible, isn't it? Let me have a look at that. I can't read it properly. Would be happy to know how far historic research-based findings and analysis can help creative minds of 21st century in decision-making. Okay, that's good. Excellent question. Thank you, CSN. I think, well, we're living through history, aren't we, at the moment? Yeah. And I hope we learn from the lessons that we're doing. So, yeah, look at the past. Yeah, things that all went wrong. Well, if we want to do that, we'll go on forever, won't we? You know, from the day of dawn, or the dawning of whatever, things went well and things also went badly. But let's look at what's going on in the world at the moment and how that helps in your decision making. Here I am. I'm sitting, actually, I live now, just moved to, right next door to Harrow School, Harrow on the Hill. Many of you will have heard of Harrow School, one of the famous UK schools. And I'm in my studio, my study, where I live. And over the course of the last 15 months or whatever else, working from wherever I was studio-wise, I have been all over the world. I've been all over the UK. I've been all over the world. I've been to India, Pakistan. I've been to, where else? France, Germany. Oh gosh, so many places that I've been to. And I've been to all of them in lockdown, sitting at my desk. How wonderful is that? What does it tell you? How does it help a young mind when it comes to decision making? Look at what the status quo is and make it happen. We're going to go through an interesting time over here at the moment in the UK, where technically we are opening up, even though the numbers are spiking dramatically. So the government's taking a bit of a risk and whatever. But part of that risk is based on the fact that we have phenomenal vaccines. Nobody would have thought 2 years ago that this thing would happen, and that if it did happen, that we would find a vaccine for it in such a remarkable short amount of time. Let the youngsters look at that and see that's where it's going. That's what's happening. More questions?
Yes, there are many, and there is one more comment. Wait, I'll just read it out. So, creativity is the entry to the new world of intelligent people.
Yeah, wonderful, Sheetal. What a great comment. Absolutely. And please, let's just make sure that we get this over to we're going to always come across dumb minds. They might be rich, they may be powerful, they may be important, but we're going to come across dumb minds that are happy with the status quo because the status quo suits them. So we didn't pollute the earth, the waterways, the air, deforestation. We didn't do it just because we were feeling a bit bored one afternoon, so we thought we'd go and chop down a forest. We did it because we wanted the wood to make stuff and make money. We've got to change those mindsets in those people. We have got to, because actually the bottom line is, and this is also this thing about for youngsters, there are an awful lot of people on this planet, very wise people, very level people, who are scared about the current state of where we are. The pandemic is one thing. The pandemic has certainly opened eyes. But where we stand in terms of the ecology of sustainability, of all that, and we are on the precipice. We are on the precipice. If you saw a little one walking into the road and a fast car was coming, what would you do? You'd sit back and say, well, yeah, excuse me, there's a car coming. You go, boom. And we've got to do that. And that's your role as educationists. You have that power. Every time you're in a studio, every time you're in a classroom, Every time you're in a group, a think tank, taking things forward, you have the ability to make that change. So creativity is the entry to a new world of intelligent people. And let's all have T-shirts with that written on. That's a beautiful statement. Beautiful statement, Sheetal. Well done. Thank you.
So next one is a question. I mean, it's again a comment that Sarika ma'am agrees that young children should be given a lot of freedom for hands-on and interaction, and rather than books and rote learning.
Yeah, I mean, but that's it. But we mustn't make the mistake of thinking that creative thinking is liberal, or totally liberal. We do believe in discipline. If you look at, as I say, the three things that make up a great creative thinker or a critical thinker. First one is an empathetic understanding of the problem. The second point is that when you understand that problem, you use your creativity, to find the solutions to that problem. But the third part is that you then have to bring in the power of reason. You have to bring in process, because you can find all the solutions to a problem. Wonderful. This will solve it, this will solve it, this will solve it. But if you don't, in a disciplined way, put those processes in place, then all your work is wasted. But in fact, we could look at it another way. We give children books, and they say, and they aspire to books, and it's good. Books are wonderful. Online, okay, fine. iPads, whatever, terrific. But we give books as an inspiration, and we all think, and I'm sure everyone in this room or in this with a group together, you've all wanted, and many probably of you have, but you've all wanted to write a book. So why don't instead we say to youngsters, well, we do it, don't we? But go out, do something fun, make something, build something, draw something, write about it. Put it in your book. And youngsters, they should be now. From the age of 8, what I've always said was the best time. You're highly creative at the age of 5. Then you go boom down to the age of 12, when you just come down to 30%. What I've seen on the graph that I produced, if you get down to the age of 8, where the kids are about 60% creative, then you can catch them and bring them back up again. And then you really can. There's a series of things that we do. It's basic things. We talk about ways of seeing. We talk about spatial awareness. We talk about empathy. We talk about process reasoning. We talk about aesthetics and ethics. And if you look at them collectively, that becomes critical thinking, or that becomes design thinking. Let's not just talk to them about it. The group that I was on just earlier with, a group of students that I work with, scholarship students in India, the Bahani scholars, lovely kids. Whatever workshops that we have, we're putting them down in books, notebooks, and it's very important. So a lot of freedom, but make that discovery of new ideas, make it important, put it in a book, write your own book. Dipti, you've come in looking very serious.
No. I was just reading a few questions that have gone missing from the discussion. So I just want to know, Tina is asking, how can we encourage students to be more creative? Because she feels that children in today's world are getting more involved in technology, and they let technology do the thinking. So how do we get them? What are the different ways we can get them to be creative?
I think we've had this before, but very happy to go back on it because you can't emphasize.
No, so I'm asking this in the context, Mike. Then when you talk about the children in a classroom, how many of them are willing to take the risks? How many of them will actually ask you a question? They don't in an Indian classroom, and you've been in so many of them. So how, in that perspective, how would you say, how could we get them to be creative?
Well, I think in the first instance, let's try and get them when they're much younger. I think Deepti, you and I were part of a very wonderful project that I hope we will renew once the pandemic is over, and looking at creativity with Naman Jain, lovely man, and that wonderful school in Ghaziabad. And I don't know if, I'm sure you do remember, we had a few sessions with various classes. So we talked to youngsters at the age of 12 and the ages of 14, and we talked to youngsters, and then we talked to youngsters at the age of 6 and 8. Do you remember? I don't know if you were part of it.
Sure, yeah.
When we were with the 14-year-olds, the 12-year-olds, it was a little bit like pulling teeth. Then eventually when the teeth were, then it started to, it came out. But with the 6-year-olds and 8-year-olds, they just bang. We talked about notebooks. I don't know if you remember that. You keep a diary. I mean, I don't think, look, so I've got this, so I've got that. Get them younger. Get them younger. As I say, the ideal thing is from birth, just keep them on this lovely creative level. Okay, the world doesn't do that. Parents do that. And great educationists do that. But let's, within the system, make sure that we encourage that creativity all the time. And it's putting values on things. It's almost like, oh, go out and paint a picture, do a potato, shape, and do some printing. It's almost as if it's trite, as if it's, it's secondary to the real thing. It's not. It's not. It's what we are. I don't know. It doesn't matter where you come from in terms of your beliefs. But let's come back. If we talk about an evolution, so there's, so a guy sitting by, or a girl probably, because women. I'm sorry guys, but women are far more creative than men. We were whatever. But that's a personal. When you're a father of 3 daughters and have a wonderful wife, it's one of those things. Great son as well. But somebody was sitting by a pond one day and pulled some mud from it, made some shapes. Her hands are flat, so those shapes became bricks. And then they let them dry. They came back the next day and they were all nice and hard. And then suddenly, those bits of mud that became bricks became cathedrals, became temples, became universities. Now, the girl or guy that came and sat by that river or that pond and took the mud out, there wasn't an instruction manual sitting there. No, excuse me, just please sit here. Now, if you put your hand in the pond and you bring out the mud and you do this with it and do that and then you leave it, then it will become bricks and then you can go on and build empires or you can go on and build civilizations. No. And that's how important it is. That wasn't it. So, they were just playing with, they were just playing with some clay. No, they were building civilizations. And, and that's where we've got to see that. With a child's painting, because, anything like that is so expressive and it's so powerful. And one thing that's terribly important with youngsters, you know, all of you, I'm sure, when they actually achieve something creatively, it moves them miles and miles and miles ahead. We find that in the design world. When somebody's first designed their first piece of furniture, had it made, and even better, they sell it, changes the youngster completely. Or does a painting that goes up on the wall. Picasso said, every child is born a great artist. It's just we stifle them. Let them become great artists. Yeah? And let that not be 2 worlds, the world of creativity, the world of making, and the world of academia. Let them not be 2 worlds.
Sure, we're going to take a little, change the gear now. Mike, I love the idea and the example of the Silver Line Prestige School in Ghaziabad. They have come a long way because they are, very, very focused in what they want, and skills and competencies is something that they're working on. And Dr. Nair is here as well in this session, and he is the one who asked you the question about the 21st century. So yes, they are chugging along, and we are so proud to be partners with them. I have a person in the audience who's the Hindi author of our curriculum, Rakhi Ahuja, and she's changing the gear for us, and she's talking about, enough of talking about creativity in children. Let's talk about creativity in teachers. Unless and until we get that, our children are not going to be, creative. So what's your take on that?
I've used this example to you before many times, but when I first set up Sushant School of Design, I was asked to set it up. So university school. So I took on the challenge, and somebody said to me, what are you doing? Well, in fact, lots of people said to me, what are you doing? Setting up a new school, design, in India. Where are you going to find? Where are you going to find the faculty? And I have never had a problem finding great faculty. India is, India is terribly special to me. And the Indian psyche, because it's an old psyche. It's not young society like America, for instance, which is babies. We're sort of adolescents in the West. India is an old and established society. Given the opportunity, given the encouragement, like with Naman does at Silverline, those teachers, those mentors, lap it up. Of course, in every situation, you're going to get somebody who takes advantage of it, somebody that wants to be lazy or whatever else. Well, that's just what life is all about. You just usually let them just go and become politicians. No, I shouldn't make comments like that, should I? But but seriously, I haven't been banned yet. I haven't been struck off. But but seriously, if people are encouraged, why do you go into teaching, especially in India, for instance? You don't get many rich teachers. Not many rich professors. But over here, it's in the UK, it's slightly different. You earn a little bit more money, but because of the passion, and that passion needs to be fed. And and again, like we did when we had those courses, which we worked together with the faculty at Silverline, I got great experience from that. I learned as much from them as they learned from me. So if you want to set up, if you want to re-establish some programs on this, I'm happy to do that. Really happy to do that.
Sure, and I remember the work that you did with Mayo College boys when we had the EdTech in Ajmer, and the creativity that the children had was like super amazing. So I think it really needs that kind of initiation, the climate and the environment in any school.
Technologies let you down, Dipti. I mean, but there again, then you've got Major General, Lieutenant General Kulkarni there at Mayo, a very evolved man, tremendously evolved man, who brings out the creativity of his people, and that's very, very special. That's very important. Are you back, Dipti?
I'm sorry, I did tell you I'm in the wilderness. The connectivity is not so great today. And that's one of the reasons why the girls were actually had taken over. So we were talking about the culture and the environment. One last piece from you, Mike, as to what do you think the culture of the school or any institution and the environment, what role does that play in developing creativity in the young ones?
Again, it's the openness, isn't it? It's doing that thing again. It's not easy to do. I mean, I've always found working with India, interviewing students and whatever else for entry into the universities, or working with students who are going to come to universities over here, or whatever. And this thing about we expect you to get 101%, and then you've made it. 100% was never enough. 99, God forbid. Then 99 puts you on the borders of becoming a failure. Got to get rid of that. Got to get rid of that completely. But as we're saying, destroy that divide. Yeah, destroy the divide between what we see as academic and we see as playful, yeah, you know, get rid of it. It's all part and parcel. And in India, you did that 3,500 years ago with places like Nalanda. My mind's, but the old liberal arts universities, where you could be an astronomer, you could be a mathematician, you could be a brilliant musician, you could be a weaver, you could be a potter, you could be an artist of all sorts. You weren't architect, weaver, sorry, I'm trying to get my screen up, architect at the top of the tree, weaver down here. It was knowledge. It was knowledge. And we need knowledges from all those things. Without weavers, without textiles, we'd all walk around naked. So, you know, we kind of need that kind of stuff. Without farmers, we wouldn't eat. So, you know, I mean, without potters, where would you have that nice cup of tea from? It's a level playing field. And if you can create that atmosphere, and as you know as well, Deepti, I mean, I know you've been working with Finland, yeah? You've seen what they've achieved educationally. It's incredible when you make it a level playing field, and that's good. But even the system that I came through sort of God, how many thousands of 65 years ago when I first went to school. Even then, you know, we did the classics, we did the languages, we did the maths and the 3 R's: reading, writing, arithmetic. But we also added in routing, making, and they're one of my heroes, one of my gurus, Sir Christopher Frayling, who was the rector of the Royal College of Art, the mecca of great design thinking. That's what Frayling always said: reading, writing, arithmetic, routing, making. Put them all in at a level peg, and you're done.
Sure, pretty interesting, Mike. And I do realize that I've seen it as well. I mean, schools just can't exist as an, you know, when you have art as a after school activity and just the cognitive subjects in the morning, so that the children who really want to opt for art can do that when the school hours are over. So getting the art back into the timetable is something that we're looking at. And I think one of CBSE's initiatives of art integration is really catching on, and integrating art across the subject areas is something that the schools are really trying to get that creativity back. It's just initiation for the last 2-3 years. I think schools are picking up, but I think that should go a long way. Thanks, Mike. I'm sorry, you were about to say something.
I was going to say, but just on integrating the thing, I worked with a young student last year, and she was an absolute topper in biology, absolute topper. She was at Modern and thought that biology was her field. But because of structures within biology, she got very interested in architecture. Now, eventually, she got a place at UCL in the UK, which is pretty unheard of. But she's gone back to biology at UCL, not architecture. But it's seeing in that. It's putting those two things together. It's a world of completeness, and that's what youngsters need. And truly, mindsets are changing so we can get there.
Sure. I hope we had more time. I think I'm gone off again. Can you hear me, Mike?
No, you're there. You've not gone off at all yet.
Yes, yeah. So, like I said, wilderness. Mario Fishery, again, an amazing tech director at the American School, Mumbai, is saying that mentorship plays a very important role, and we need to have the right mentors with the children so that we can get them going. They can see what's happening in the world out there and actually be, you know, sure of what's happening. So thanks, Mario, for that little comment there, and happy that you are part of the discussion. I would just like to thank Mike. This is just a start of the series on creativity, Mike, and we are so happy that you are part of this. There are lots of papers, I know, and you are working with a lot of schools in India and abroad. And you are a board member for Mahattattva, and I really value that. And we hope that relationship goes further, and the schools we are working with actually bloom and blossom in creativity. So for joining us in the early morning, I think, for you, and or is it late afternoon?
It's lunchtime.
Lunchtime. So I think it's time. I can now. Thank you so much for joining in, Mike, and it was, as usual, a pleasure having you for this discussion.
My pleasure. Take care, everybody. God bless. Bye.
Bye-bye.